Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me today. Today I'm sharing with you a notebook that I created for the month of March for ReneaBouquets swap. This is a swap that she typically has in her Facebook group each month. And in March we were swapping notebooks. This notebook since reaches owner. I hope that she enjoys it. I had fun making it. I hope you'll enjoy my process. So here you can see that I just have a spiral notebook that I've removed the inside paper, and I'm just working with a chipboard cover. I'm working with some pattern paper from Fern Studio, which is the Waltz collection, and that is in the store. I believe there's 20 papers in that collection, but you can check it out in the shop. It's a beautiful collection with a ton of vintage color and lots of pinks and greens and blues. But I wanted something that was more muted on the chipboard itself, so it wouldn't take over the cover. Anyhow, I digress. As you can see, I'm just adhering 2 pieces of paper to my chipboard. I'm using gel medium on the chipboard itself and on the paper because I want it to really stick. I don't want it to fall apart in her hands. She did say that she uses the notebooks more often, and I wanted to make sure that it will hold up to her actually handling and using the notebook. So I didn't want to do anything too crazy, but I still wanted it to be pretty. So that's why I picked this paper. Anyhow, you can see that that is really, really a bright pink on the inside. Off camera, I do go ahead and use an older collection that I had in my stash. It's of Fern Studio. It's I believe it's a Christmas collection, but it's just a white and a tan. I just wanted something to tone down that bright pink because it was like, wow. But you know, it was just a notebook that I picked up at Hobby Lobby, and I just tried to make it as pretty as I could before I sent it on out to its new owner. So that being said, you can see I'm just playing with some gel medium, and I'm using a gloss gel from Finnabar. I'm sure that anything that you have on hand would work for that, but that's what I'm using because, quite frankly, it's what was on my desk. But as you can see, I'm just smoothing out, and I'm trying to make sure there's no bubbles and everything's there. Now you see that I just pointed out those little tiny holes where the spiral goes through. Well, that was not fun. It was not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but I really didn't have any idea how I could get that out and still get the look that I wanted, so that's what I did. I glued over it, and then I sanded out those pieces, and it actually went pretty quick. And it gave me a little bit of a vintage distressed kind of look on the edge, and then while I was sanding, I went ahead and just sanded those edges. And that's why you'll see me adding some antique linen ink from Tim Holtz, just to give the edges a little bit of color and to keep it with the vintage feel. So some of that was off camera, but honestly, if I would have recorded me sanding that, you guys would have lost your minds. Anyhow, so here's my front and my back cover. You can see that they have the paper, and it's going to work with the spiral, and now I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do with this notebook. I have an idea, but again, I don't want it to be too over the top because I don't want pieces to fall off in her hand as she's using the notebook, but I still want it to be pretty, and I don't want her to think that I didn't put my effort into this. So I found some of this Ivory lace. It's a really wide lace. It's an embroidered lace. It's gorgeous. You'll find that and many more in the store, but this one, I really, really love this one. I've bought it before, and I will buy it again. It's a wonderful texture to have in the background, especially for a lot of the mixed media projects I do. It holds up well. It's easy to glue down. It's smooth. It's not too bulky. Anyhow, I digress. So I'm just making sure that this is down with gel medium. And again, I just want to make sure that it's easy for her to handle and it's not going to fall apart. So you'll see I'm kind of doing a little bit of overkill with my gel medium. You're probably thinking, oh, you don't need that much. And I probably don't, but better safe than sorry, right? So I'm just going to continue to glue down this lace and keep it in place, and then I'm going to glue the edge to make sure, again, that lace is not going to come up for her. And there you can see that little white and tan pattern paper that I put in there. And it was just a side B to another page. Anything would have worked in there. Anyhow, So I'm off camera a teeny tiny bit, and I'm sorry about that. I have not been friends with my camera this month. It's broke on me. It's changed its settings on me. I even tried to use a webcam for a couple things. It's been interesting between all this virus nonsense and my camera and everything else. Yay! Anyhow, I digress. So I'm trying to keep that off the ground, off my table that is, because I don't want it to stick because I've just put so much gel medium. So I'm going to move that off to the side. And now onto this large, beautiful whiteboard heart. And there's several hearts in this size. This is the large one, I believe. And I'm just going to go ahead and cover that with some impasto paste. And this is linen. And it's not paste, it's paint, but it's really thick like a paste, so I have a tendency to mess that up. Anyways, it's linen, and I'm just adding some color to it. I could have left it like that and it would have looked fine just the way that it was, but I wanted to add just a tiny bit more of a vintage feel. So you'll see that I've watered that paint down quite a bit, so it won't give me any trouble and it won't like goop up the design of the chipboard, I guess would be a way to say it. And probably not the best, but yeah, so I don't goop up all the little holes there. Anyway, so I'm going to cover this with the acrylic paint, and then I'm going to start working on my next piece. And again, I just added a bunch of water so it would work. Yay, watch me paint. So you can see I have that tiny chipboard up there, and it's because I bounced around a couple of different ideas when I was trying to decide what I was going to do with the front of this cover. And I had thought about cutting up some of the Blue Fern Studio words on their pattern paper and adhering that, and then I changed my mind and I grabbed something else later. But that's what's at the top of the screen there, if you're wondering what in the world that is. And now I'm just mixing two sparks together, and these have a little bit of an undertone, so they don't mix very well, but the one is a little bit thicker, so I'm just adding a little bit of fluid acrylic to make it a little bit easier, again, so it doesn't goop up all the little pieces of the chipboard. But I didn't want this just to be blue because I'm trying to match it to the pattern paper, and for whatever reason I just couldn't find the right tone to match this, so I mixed these two colors together, and it doesn't work layering them on top of each other, so you'll see I actually wind up mixing them together a little bit, and then that works out pretty well. But the shine in the sparks paint is just, it's a lot, so it's kind of hard to pick up on the camera, and you don't really get the true vision of it until you see it in the pictures. But it does turn out to be a beautiful color, and it matches the paper pretty good, which, you know, was the goal. And there I am mixing it together and then just going over top of the chipboard again. And then I made sure that it was 100% dry before I glued it down because I didn't want it to mess up the lace. Okay. Now it's stuck to the napkin, and there we go. Okay. So once everything's dry, you'll see me go ahead and start sticking everything down. So here I am adding the heart, and I'm just using some Fabri-Tac for this. It's honestly, I love it. You know, I don't know. Some people have other preferences. This works well for me. Again, I know it's overkill with this amount of glue on this chipboard, but I really wanted to make sure it just stayed in place. So here's that. Butterfly in the heart, and then I'm deciding I want to add a little bit of wax to this just to grunge it up a little bit, add a little bit of shine, age it just a tiny bit. So I believe this is aged brass, I'm gonna guess, because that's my go-to wax. Doesn't matter how many I have, that's the one I seem to pick the most. But anyhow, I am just adding that around the heart, and then you'll see me add it around the edge of the notebook. And I'm sorry in advance because I know when things get moving it makes people seasick, so close your eyes. But I just do this on the front and the back of the cover, and just a little bit. I'm not really very neat about it. I kind of get it up on the paper, and it's just to give it just a little bit more. I could have maybe done some gel texture on it, but I really thought that this pattern paper had enough going on. I didn't want to add too much to it. Okay, and you can see my ink pad still holding up my notebook cover as I'm working on it. And just a tiny bit of wax around the edge of the chipboard piece, or the, I don't know, what do you call that? The wood quote. It's from Tim Holtz. And I'm just going to put that in the middle there, and I do adhere that down with some 3D gloss gel. Now I have found these little tiny hearts from Renee's. Well, they're her little tiny hearts. They're adorable. And I add, I think, 4 or 5 of them to the front of the cover because why not? They're gorgeous. So you'll see me stick them down, trying to figure out where I want them. Again, I really didn't want this to be too over the top because I wanted everything to stay in place, and I just wanted it to be a simple yet pretty project. So I'm adhering them with a little bit of Fabri-Tac. Or no, that's not Fabri-Tac. That's tacky glue. Sorry. And I'm going to add some pearls. This is fun. Yeah. I'm digging out all those pearls. I just wanted to accent that little scallop edge around the heart. So that's where I'm sticking the Flatback pearls, which are also in the shop. This is the winter mix. It comes with a really light blue with the pearl, and then it's kind of almost a whitest. Maybe it's frost, I guess, because it's white with a blue tint. Anyways, there's 3 different shades in there. I dug through and picked out the more ivory of the ones, and I'm adhering them on the scalp of the heart here, just with a touch of glue, and that's it. And you'll see me go back and straighten them up just a wee tiny bit. Sorry, I just didn't want to speed this up anymore. I know this is an easy project and you all could figure out how to do this, but I wanted to share my process because I really did enjoy, I guess, designing for Renee last month, and I thought I would share so you guys would join the swap this month. Okay, so now I'm going to take that wax and I'm going to color those little tiny hearts because it blends into the background, but they still pop up. So they show, but they don't take over anything. The white just seemed to stand out too much for me. So I'm adding a little bit of the wax, and then I'm like, hey, I got some more, so let me put some more on. So now I'm just grabbing some seam binding, and I'm going to grab some Lindsay's to mix up some colors to match the pattern paper. Not sure which ones I grabbed. I'm sure that I grabbed Steampunk Sepia, probably a coral, and I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Rusty Lantern Lime. That seems to be the pretty standard blue fern mix for me. It gives me this really aged vintage looking ribbon. And I make sure that I wet that down so the color sinks in, and then I dry it so it gets all the crinkles. And then you'll see I'm just trying to decide if that's it, if I'm really going to leave it this simple, because I hardly ever leave anything this simple, but it really, to me, I think it's done. It looks pretty. It's good. So I'm just going to add the ribbon, and you'll see me tie my little pieces of ribbon up and down the spiral of the notebook once I put it back together. And again, I did that off camera because you would have gotten seasick watching me try to rustle that back into place. But it surprisingly did go easy, but it was comical watching. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed my notebook. I hope the new owner likes it. And thank you so much for joining me today. You can find everything that I used in the shop and in the description below. Thanks again for having me last month, and you all have a great day. Thanks. Bye-bye.